I know.
What?
Great. You got douchebag in your posterity now.
Oh shit, we're actually live. I was waiting for you to press that.
Yeah, we're live. All right, this is
Awesome.
our second podcast, and today I think we want to talk about human capital, what that is, how that applies to you, and some tips and tricks on how to view your life properly in the business realm.
Yeah, and I would say how to build human capital overall. So, brief overview, and this is with absolutely no notes or other people's research. This is just going off the top of what we've talked about and off the top of my head. Because it's kind of revolutionized the way I look at my life as well. I've always been I think both of us have been, we think about spiritual and personal and emotional things, but we're also quite materialistic people, right? Like, I really like stuff. I really like getting like my Xbox, my car, my computer, and I get very stoked on those things.
Yeah.
Actually, you're probably better for that than I am. You're a little bit more transient and don't care as much. I get very like not overly attached, but I really like them. I really care about them. And I find myself I'm always battling. I'm falling into the habit of going, this job that I have is everything, and it is super valuable, and it's often true that it's valuable. And this car that I have, my motorcycle, these things really, really matter to me, and they're really valuable. And I don't want to say like, oh, personality or some other thing, that's shallow and this is deep. But it's just that the human capital, even behind each of those things, is what really counts. That's the thing that will carry through with you. And if anything, it's just a matter of logistics. It's in your brain.
Right.
It's in your brain, and your brain is a fucking huge, powerful supercomputer. So the ability for me to ride my motorcycle is by far a more valuable thing to have than my motorcycle. Because that thing will be in my brain, and I can adapt that not only to other motorcycles, but to other vehicles, to other things in my life, right?
Right.
The value I gain from riding my motorcycle, and that thing is now in a giant supercomputer, which has the ability to cross-transfer that skill into other aspects of my life. And that's a super small, literal example, right?
Yeah.
Like, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Oh no, yeah, no. I'm following what you mean so far. I kind of I like how most knowledge kind of begets other knowledge or like falls into the same category. Like I mean,
Yeah,
you learn how to ride your bicycle first to use that
yeah,
analogy, and then because of that, you could learn to ride your motorcycle. And I do
yeah,
really enjoy the comparison of the physical thing, how it's
yeah.
less meaningful than what you can do with it.
Absolutely, because and it's funny the way I still like to think of it. It's just, and that's only because we have a super ultra computer in our brains. I don't think that the activity of doing something is inherently more valuable, but every time you do it, what you're doing is teaching your brain more about the truth. Right? Whenever you do an actual thing in the real world, instead of sitting around and imagining it, or sitting around and thinking about it like both you and I have a tendency to do, instead of imagining what it could be like, yeah, it has some value, but every time you just do more interaction with the world and you pay attention, you self-analyze and you self-grow during that interaction with the world, the truth is forced upon you. You can only interact in the world in true ways, right? I can't drive my motorcycle using imaginary rules. I have to use the rules of how the motorcycle works, how likely the engine is to break down, what other drivers are likely to do on the road, right? All these things I have to operate in the truth. I can't go, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I went this way? Wouldn't it be nice if everyone just did this? Like, it doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant. I do this or I die.
Yeah. No, that's interesting because if you follow that, and I've seen it before, the more the crazy the person is, the
Yeah.
less real things they do in reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just coming to my mind right now, but I mean,
Right.
how many crazy mothers are there that are isolated in their own, not to pick on
Right.
mothers, crazy dads, but
Yeah.
business people up in the upper echelon, that
Yeah.
are just
Well, people live
bananas.
if they live in an isolated world. Yeah.
Yeah, but you find real people or whatever that are the kind of almost the hippies that are without isolating them too much in their own
Yeah.
communities or whatever,
Yeah.
but they're the ones in touch with nature and doing things and climbing
Right.
rocks and
Yeah.
whatever. They're a lot more balanced
Yeah.
as far as I've seen.
Yeah.
And
Well.
that just makes sense to me now that I think about it, because of course they are actively using physics and cannot deny it or get in a circle jerking mode on Reddit.
Well, no, but it's not just the internet. It's not just Reddit at all. I mean, this has been around forever. But I think the thing that it's really hard for me to articulate because I only just barely understand it. But the reason you can get so lost in it with other people, right? Like that's why I use the motorcycle example, because although there's other drivers, they're kind of forces of nature, and I can predict them, but it's only like a specific subset of the interactions I have to worry about. I don't really have to worry about their motivations in life and anything like that. Whereas even in business and even at work, and in your social circles, it's very easy to have not truth, which sounds stupid because whatever someone's doing, obviously it must be factual. But it's very easy to have these interactions where you're bouncing a concept off another concept off another concept. And you say something to someone, and instead of looking for literal feedback, what you're looking for is their acceptance. And then if they accept you based on a different expectation from you, you have this compounding thing where your supercomputers are bouncing back and forth data without ever actually correlating it to the actual data of the real world.
Right.
Which is how I think people lose human capital. I think you can actually lose human capital. I think because you can teach yourself systems that don't exist. You can teach yourself, so you can get yourself, not teach, but that's the wrong word, but you can get trapped habitually in systems that don't have any value outside of that interaction.
Well, and I
don't have any value in literal existence.
I think the best way to illustrate that would be to show like the arrogance of like politicians or like the educated class, where like they'll just be like, it's like this, and like that's the way, and we did some studies and like whatever, and like even like, but it's so against common sense that it's not even funny. Like, and I mean like if it's backed up enough.
You're a little bit abstract. Explain to me, or give me more of what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you
like a specific example, like what's something that a politician, or you know what I mean? Do you have something that, like talking about education, or I'm just trying to get like.
Sure, yeah. Like education, like the way that it's run right now, like their whole concept is to throw money at it because they think it's like a dollar amount on it.
Right.
When like anyone who's actually ever been in a classroom realizes that like no matter how many
fundamental flaws
you have in there, it's never going to be the same as having like an actual engaged teacher.
Right, or just an engaged interaction between you and another kid, or you in the real world.
Yeah, or like using the same example, like how they teach us concentrated curriculum for each person. Like in theory, when you don't have any practical knowledge, it makes sense because you want everyone to have a basic understanding of math.
Yeah, and it seems fair, right? Yeah. Give everybody the same.
Absolutely, and but that's how it started. Was like they wanted to do that, but then they realized some people couldn't hack it or didn't have the interest in it, so they dumbed it down and dumbed it down and dumbed it down until everyone could have like a basic standard. And now you've got people who are like semi-illiterate. Not to go off on education.
Well, there's a lot of literacy in all of North America. Yeah, it's actually a huge number of people. I had another idea there, but before I get too off track, I want to stick to my definition of a human capital anyway. But that. That human capital is something that you develop. I think you only develop it when you interact with other meaningful systems, or other systems that you can correlate to other things. Like you just said, right? So instead of having if you sit down and imagine, if you just sit down and imagine the way an education system should work, you're not developing human capital, in my opinion, right? Like if I sit down and imagine, what I would like to do, with my life, I'm not developing any human capital in that process. I'm not developing something which I can transfer over to something else to sell to other people, something that will provide value to other people. Right. Imagining a plan is great. Executing a plan and seeing whether it works, and then understanding the best way of making those kinds of plans is now you have achieved human capital. Because now that you know what sorts of plans are actionable, what sorts of what kind of feedback mechanisms work and how efficient they are, that's so fucking useful.
Right.
You can now go and make another education plan or a completely unrelated business plan for somebody else. But just having it seems abstract, but having the ability to understand and go, feedback mechanisms which are, fast and direct are more efficient, as opposed to waiting for something that takes 5 years and then you're not sure how many variables have occurred in the meantime, right? Like those vague understandings, I think, are what really cultivate human capital.
Human capital, so if I can summarize it or whatever, is the ability to exist in reality. Whereas, what's a good term for it? Social survival It's like the opposite end where it's like, no, run through this, get this, do
Right.
this, and like get a degree, and then you're fine. I mean, how many times were you told that going through education? Like, you just need to
Right.
get a degree, and otherwise you're fucked. Or you'll be fine if you do get one, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I think that that's a really important distinction between the two because when you get out there and realize that, hey, I'm a human being, these are my needs. Once I
Yeah.
have them satisfied, I'm good. Like
Right.
there's nothing really beyond that. You get into Maslow hierarchy of needs and stuff, and you start leveling up on that. Whereas the societal just spoon feeds you this one direction to go, and you won't have any idea how to survive outside of it. If you get
Yeah, so
fired,
that's I would say the key component. And again, this is I'm sure there's people out there with way better definitions of what they call human capital. Whenever I think and talk about what I'm thinking about is we just said is what it comes down to is it's transferable. It's something that you can take, you can extract useful. It's human capital is the value that you have extracted from other things you've done, and you can then transfer that to other processes. Obviously, people who go through the whole school system get tons of human capital from it. It's not
yeah,
like you don't learn anything. You learn all kinds of skills in terms of, lots of social interactions are social capital, or are human capital, and ways of dealing with schools and overcoming hardship and persistence and all those things. And I think that's what people always argue, like why it's useful to go through the university system and the school system. They go, well, at least somebody who did that has persistence. At least somebody knows how to follow instructions and get something done. So those are the human capital elements they've extracted. Now, I mean, having been a person who's worked pretty much since I was, I don't know, whatever age, delivering papers kind of thing, like pretty much nonstop, you know, you can learn a lot more stuff a lot faster, a lot of
yeah,
other ways. But yeah, actually, before I get too much into education, I think the human capital, the thing that I find so fascinating, and I explained this to you once, and this is why I can, if at least temporarily, love any job and excel, I think, at any job, no matter how menial or how complicated, is going into it and really loving and understanding that I'm gaining something fundamental to myself in this process. Even if it's sweeping a fucking floor somewhere, every time is like, I am going to learn the most efficient and the best way of doing this. And of course, some things are more valuable than others. I'm not saying that sweeping a floor is the same as, being CEO of a business. But you can learn things from it. And I think that the people who are successful in the higher echelons of business have had to endure some hardship. That's like almost unanimous, right? The greatest entrepreneurs of all time, they have all endured extreme hardship on a very small and literal level in their lives. It's almost never people who've endured abstract hardships. It's always people, I mean, everyone endures abstract, but it's people who have endured literal physical challenges in their lives. They've had to do things that were physically demanding, that made them deal with reality. Because I don't think you learn human capital without the unrelenting feedback of the physical world.
yeah. No, and I mean, just to borrow off some idea a little bit before if we're
Yeah,
on that string. The one thing that I was really impressed by you and your specific example, and like I noticed in myself, that it's only until that I stepped out of bounds of like the societal safety net that
yeah,
I actually understood what human capital was. And you actually explained it to me, and I keep telling people about it. Was when you first moved to Vancouver, you had a van and you moved
yeah,
people with it. Like you were just like, that's what I'm doing now. Like, and it was like to me, there was like one point in my life where that switched on, where I was broke and I had rent coming up,
yeah,
and I was like, I don't have a job. Even if I get a job now, it's gonna pay me in 2 weeks. Like, and I have
yeah,
no way of getting money. And then I was like, wait,
yeah,
like I can do this, and like I can
yeah,
actually do something that's not a job or not in this framework that I've always been spoon fed. I
right,
have
right,
abilities. Like I could go
yeah,
pick bottles for fucking 6 hours.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And I can trade them in and I can get money that way. Like
yeah,
there's nothing stopping me. And that was a huge, huge like epiphany moment that changed
right,
my life where like I'm not dependent
yeah,
on having the social dictate what I'm doing kind of thing. Like I have capital. I'm a smart person. I can
yeah.
put two and two together and I can get it done.
Well, and that's I've always been a huge proponent of that, of people recognizing general capital too, right? Like the human capital would be like you said, that epiphany to me is the human capital. It's that ability to think outside the box and to then gather whatever resources you can. But people, I think I have that in spades, and some people don't, is the ability to recognize regular capital. To recognize the things you have, the fucking clothes on your back, as being a potential asset you can use to get money.
Right.
Every single thing you own, every single person you know, every single thing you can possibly interact with is a thing you can leverage for money.
Yeah.
It is, because somebody isn't using it to its full benefit in some way, shape, or form. Even if you just have access to a public space, that place, there's definitely something you could do with it that people would pay to see, or pay to use, or pay to do, or pay to receive.
Right.
Like there's no limit to that, and I think that fundamental understanding is something that we get so removed from. To me, this feels like a conspiracy theory, the system moment, where it's like, I feel like the system doesn't want you to realize this, which is silly because it's so beneficial to everyone. But the thing is, if everyone realized this, this is how, to me, how we have a society or a world of free market and free interaction. When everybody realizes that they are full of capital and the world around them is full of capital, it doesn't just come in hierarchies. It doesn't just come from here and trickle down to here, or come from here and trickle up and funnel into one guy. It's not really like that. The entire world around you is something you can use to bring things to other people who need it.
Yeah.
And to take things from people who don't want it and give it to other people who do want it. And a way of transferring random stuff around. Like, if I just pick up rocks every day at the beach and put them in my pockets every time I walk back, there's people who want rocks for rock gardens, right? Like, that's a viable service. That's probably a very valuable service, knowing the yuppie gardens in some of the neighborhoods.
Yeah,
they would love beach rocks. Yeah. But I mean, that's as simple as capital is, and that's, to me, that's that beautiful moment of, like, that's where I hit that freedom moment. And I still have to realize it all the time. Because, like, now, like, I get trapped in regular long-term jobs. Not trapped like they're bad, but just, I sort of fall into the habit.
You get used to it and comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a cliff, like it's going to end or there's going to change, and you're like, oh my god, what'll I do? And it's like, you can pick up rocks in your pockets. Yeah. You can do anything, as long as you're willing to move from one place to another, or even just turn on the internet, turn on your phone. Even just talk to people. There's something somebody needs to hear, and they will pay you to hear it.
Yeah. And, like, that's another thing. Like, people think it's only monetary reward that you get, and that's the only thing that you should strive for. That's your exchange. Right. And that's from the job mentality. But, like, you get favors and stuff, and, like, ways of dealing outside the dollar amount. Like, our friendship or whatever would provide me, should I ever need it, with a big, wide margin of, like, food, shelter, and clothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And, like, and, like, you get the same from me, just for being there or whatever.
Yeah, no, and that's the currency. And it's funny, because I don't know if this is I don't know if this is a legit quote, just because I read it just the other day, and it's funny because it's from Karl Marx. But he said, the currency of love is love. And I just thought that was a really good quote. I'm just saying of maybe separating it in terms of, it has its own currency and it has its own value. And, like, it is a currency and it does exchange. And I know people hate to hear that because they like to think, oh, true love and unconditional love and all these things. And I just, to me, those are kind of immaterial, because I've never seen, now this will sound really sad and depressing, I don't want to say I've never seen unconditional love. But, I mean, love is conditional on both parties being alive. Like, love is conditional on both parties knowing of each other and being able to communicate with each other, right? Like,
unconditional love is an abstract concept.
Yeah, it seems like an abstract concept. Same with true love. It's just, well, what do you mean true? I love the person. And that's true and accurate, so it's true love.
At this point in time, I love
this. Yeah. I truly love plenty of things. I'm going a little off topic there. But, yeah, I think that that human capital and the capital of everything around you, I really, really wish that everyone could see it and love it the way I do, because there is no feeling, and maybe I'll tell more about that story, like you said about the van. I came out to Vancouver. I went to school for audio and started trying to work in the sound industry, and, like, it's impossible. Like, the ratio of people getting into it to the people of employment is, like, literally about 120 to 1. That was, like, I graduated with about 120 people, and, like, maybe one gets a job. That's, like, actually, like, gets full, like, all the time employment.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I spent the last $2,000 of my student loan on at first I spent it on an RV because I was going to live in an RV and save money on rent. And I bought the RV. Total crap. You don't save money at all. Trying to find a place to park and a septic hookup or finding, like it was, and gas is a nightmare. So I sold it, but I waited till the long weekend and sold it and turned it around for about double. So I made another $2,000. And I used that to buy a van. And then when the van, I just walked into a sound place and said, look, I have this capital, right? I have this van, I can do work. And then whenever things would kick down, I would just drive around in the van. I drive around to furniture stores, like whenever work was slow. I drive around to furniture stores. I drive around to friends' houses. I drive everywhere, and just whoever needed something delivered somewhere, I would do it. I made fake business cards. I pretended I had a legit business. I went to, what is it called? Home Sense, I think? Yeah, the Winners knockoff, or what is the Winners store. And I would deliver furniture to rich people in North Van and make like a killing doing it. And I would pretend I was legit. I think I made fake T-shirts. I made fake business cards. Like, that to me is like, it was the greatest feeling ever. There's nothing amazing like that. And there's nothing that gets you, I think, really in touch with what money is. It gets people, they have this abstract realm where you get money from these places and you budget it out for these things. And it seems like this instituted system. And it's like, no, it's not. Look, I just drove up to the furniture store and I said, hey, I have a van. You guys have small cars. Do you want me to take your furniture to your house? And they're like, yes, here's money.
I think that is especially apparent in our generation, where like we go have a job and then we work this amount of hours, and then every 2 weeks a number is deposited in a bank account that we don't
see.
See.
Yeah. You don't even take the checks and cash them or like anything.
Yeah, you don't see any of that. So I think there's a huge disconnect between like what you do and how you do it and like the reward. Like just mentally, and I couldn't see how there wouldn't be.
My current employer, honestly, I swear to God, this is so embarrassing. I first worked for them. I checked my pay statements the first couple times, like just to make sure they added up, because it's like direct deposit. Like I don't even know what happens, and I never check my bank accounts. I just spend money and make money. And I'm not saying I'm rich. I'm just an idiot. I just don't want to think about it. Right? So no. I went 2 years without ever checking a pay statement to see if they fucked me or not.
Oh man.
How stupid is that? And then I had to go back and sit there. It took me like fucking 3 days of seriously work for 3 days going back through all my pay statements. And like they made a couple mistakes, nothing too bad. They were really honest. So and that's why I trusted them, but still it's just like that's the level of acceptance we have. And I'm fairly poor. Like I don't make a lot of money. Right? So that's like, it does matter to me, the small dollar amounts. And yet I'm still falling well in the realm of being like, whatever, get money, make money, spend money.
Well, it's just such a disconnect between the two that you don't even really like acknowledge it. Like if you get paid at the end in cash that day and you're like, you're short 30 minutes or something like that, you're going to be there and be like, hey, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like that far. My experience learning that specifically, where I got the understanding human capital, I worked for a sales company.
Oh, sorry, I just want to correct, because in that case, I think we're talking just about capital in general, rather than human capital. Because I was talking about how the van is capital.
Oh, yeah.
And just how, like, basically you can use everything as capital and just make money as you go. But anyway, continue. I just want to correct you, because I feel like human capital is sort of different.
Yeah, mine kind of parallels both of them. But
okay,
it was what I had to do was I had to go knock on people's doors and sell them like an energy contract for like nice. X number of years or whatever, right? And for this price, you're locked in or whatever. And like, it wasn't like you were getting fleeced or anything like that. It was more like this. There was two competing companies that just wanted all the utilities on one of their bills, so they get
and they just want to lock people down so they know how much they're gonna make.
Yeah, exactly. It was, like people thought it was evil. Like I don't know how many people screamed at me, like just like get that
contracts are evil.
Yeah, like, and I'm like, dude, like you do realize like I'm 20 and like I'm walking around in the snow. Like you do realize I'm not the head of this company, right? Like No, I'm the evil one. Take it all out on me, buddy. All right. Yeah. Anyway, but like just the receptivity, like I know I just said like people yelled at me, but like there were so many people that would just go along with whatever I said just because I was providing a service and they wanted to do it. And like to me, that struck such a good chord where
Okay.
everything that I've done, I couldn't. I like that's always been in the back of my mind. Is like I could always go out and sell this door to door, and I've
Right.
always put everything into that. And like that's something that's a transferable skill throughout everything. And like
Right.
you'll
That is human
notice,
capital. Yeah.
like I walked into some mansions, in
Yeah.
some places, and these guys would just do whatever the hell just because they wanted to encourage me walking on the street up to them because they remember a time when they did that. And
Right.
like,
Right.
this was the most important lessons I've ever learned in my entire life was just being able to like communicate and
Yeah.
sell. And like
Yes.
it's just like there was nothing greater than that. And I mean, to be honest with you, now that I'm looking back, it was
Yeah.
by far like there's
Well,
that understanding
oh
that no
yeah.
matter what it is, I can sell. Like it's come in handy so many times. Like when I've been putting together business plans, if
Yeah.
this doesn't work, then I
Yeah.
will go and knock on their damn door and make them take this, right? Like and that persistence, that whole knowledge that this is allowable. You don't have to be polite about this. Like I mean, obviously be polite.
Yeah.
You don't have to be what anyone wants you to be. You can bug people and get them to do it.
Yeah, and
And that's
that's
how most
exactly no, and that totally goes along with what I was thinking of. Just it's that breaking down of the barriers too, right? Of being, and although you're obviously employed by a big company, yada yada yada, but it's those moments when we can experience that I think really encourages the best of capitalism and the best of free market interaction.
yeah.
Is those moments when you can like you see and understand why somebody would want something, and you see and understand that without you facilitating, they might have an inferior experience as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And like, and you get to have that skill, like that skill you're just talking about, the sort of salesmanship and stuff. To me, what that is that's the ability to break down the barriers. To not be like, I'm part of, a customer service person in like Best Buy. They don't really get the salesman experience.
Yeah.
They don't really, because it's not really them, and it's not really their
They're,
thing. And
they're already coming into a store. You're just facilitating what they need.
yeah, exactly.
What is in mind. Whereas I'm
Right.
directly connecting. You didn't know you needed this, but you need this.
Yeah, which is that's what you're right. No, you're right. I didn't think about that, but that's what that moment was for me with the van too, right? Of me actually like getting off my ass, busting my balls, and walking into a place that had no infrastructure or maybe concept of this, and going, look, here's what I can do for you. And they're like, and like each time they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, no worries. Do you want to just grab your manager? I'm just gonna talk to them. Bring the manager over. And be like, all right, here's what's going on. And they're like, they're kind of looking at me, like looking around, like, who are you with? Like, what
Yeah.
is this? Like, is this like, are you a business or what? And I'm like, yeah, no, I've got cards. And I'm just like, but look, here's the important thing. I'm available most weekdays during this time. Give me a shout if somebody needs something big moved, and I'll show up and we'll do it. And here's like my rate structure. Minimum 60, up to this, and this.
Yeah.
And they just like, and each time they're a little confused, and like it felt so out of the blue, because that just doesn't happen. When those places get delivery companies, they broker huge like deals with like, you know what I mean, with like some giant seller or something that's like multiple places across the country. And so they just had no idea, but I got shitloads of business. I got more business than I could handle half the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm recruiting friends constantly to come and hop in the van and move furniture. But that's like, that broke down that barrier for me. Prior to that, I'd had a lot of jobs like, I don't know, doing contract work for like construction shit. As a teenager, doing like, I don't know, working in a fucking theme park was like the worst thing in my life. And when you're working in the theme park or working a job like that, you have no concept that your money has anything to do with the customers, or that your effort has anything to do with anyone else's experience.
Yeah.
Your job is to do a job, right? And I think that's what a lot of people miss out on. Their jobs, and even in tons of offices, your job is to not piss off your boss. Your job isn't to provide a valuable service in exchange for money. Your job is to not get fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's sad. Like, I think that's sad, and I've experienced it, and I've had people try to push that paradigm on me, and I don't accept it. My job isn't to not get fired. That's a necessary but not sufficient part of my job, right? My necessary but not sufficient is to not piss off too many people I'm working. But even then, I don't give a shit. You can piss off your boss. This is what I think people need to know. You can piss off your boss. You can piss off anyone. But if they know how to run a business and you're making them money, that's all that matters.
That should be what all that matters.
No, that's what I said. If they know what they're doing, if they know how to run a business,
Yeah,
that's it.
but
And
I
if
mean
they
that's
don't
the
know how to
thing.
run that business and you know how to make money, go out there and do it without them.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
it.
need that person.
Exactly it. That is
No.
exactly it. When once you realize that paradigm, you're either making your most capital with them or you move on. Because
Yeah,
you once you're free of that paradigm of having like a job and like a steady thing and like you actually can survive without it, it gives you this thing called financial dignity, right?
right,
Like, and
right,
that's missing everywhere because we're all these wage earners, right? And
yeah,
we can't save and we can't do this and like we have
right.
crippling debt on our shoulders. And no, like if a boss is like, "Yay, I need you to go up and go to some Inuit town and live in an ice," like you'd have to. Like, what are
Yeah.
you gonna do? Are you gonna walk away? You don't have you
Although that
yeah
being said, that sounds like fun. I would totally
yeah
do
no no
it.
I would do the shit out of it. But like like if let's say you had a kid and family and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was in the hospital and the guy's like, too bad, you have to go up there. You don't have the ability to say no to that. Whereas
No,
if you
yeah.
have human
Human
capital,
capital. That's
you
what it
can
is. If you have
do it
human capital.
through it. Like, I'm not dealing with that from you. I got shit to do. I'm taking care of this.
Yeah.
You can find someone else to do that. I'm gonna go pick bottles for 8 hours.
Well,
And
but
you're gonna
that's the thing.
survive until I get a job.
I always tell people who when they bitch about their jobs, if they have a shitty job or even if they have a good job, is how good are you at it? Because if you're not very good at it, get good at it. And I
Yeah.
don't care if they're paying you enough to or not. Get really, really, really good at it. If you're a floor sweeper, like I said, down to whatever. If you're a mopper, get really fucking good at mopping. Learn about different kinds of mops. Learn about mopping techniques. Learn about all the different kinds of messes and what sort of cleaner you should use.
Yeah.
And when your boss pisses you off, walk the fuck away because you are now the best mopper in town. And
Yeah.
maybe you're just the best mopper, but it's better than being the most mediocre mopper in town.
Huh.
Because
And
you can walk away, and if worse comes to worse, start up an independent contractor business going, I will mop your floors, and I will do a better job than the
worst come to
competition.
worst, start your own business and
Yeah,
expand.
yeah. No, but it
That's
requires
the
no money.
pitfall.
To
Yeah,
do that, you don't need any money. You just need to have a single mop, a single bucket, and the ability to get to a different business.
and
Like,
if you're good enough, the businesses that used to hire you and have you mop their floors will recognize that the quality's gone down and will want to know
yeah,
why. You walk into
yes,
them the next day and be like, "Hey,
yeah.
you want me? I was doing all this, you know."
Yeah, so it's like I may sound like a shill for businesses, but the best way you can screw your shitty boss is to be incredibly good at your job.
Yeah.
Just be good at it, and you don't have to be incredibly smart or incredibly talented naturally. You just have to pay attention and constantly add new capital. Add new understandings of your work, new understandings of your situation, little bits of research here and there, little connections here and there, and then all of a sudden you have so much value that if they want to get rid of you, they're going to have to bust their ass trying to find somebody who can fill that same gap that you left behind.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I kind of was picking up on now that I am back
Yeah.
working. I always thought that everything was organized really difficultly. Like there was like a super intelligent being creating systems, and like I would have a really tough time learning them all. They're all really simple, and there's nothing I've ever come across that really, really challenged me. It was all like, oh, once I got it, I was like, that makes sense. Or
Yeah.
like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and that should be like that. It's never been like, oh my god, I'll never be able to figure this out. It's like, people say I'm a fast learner, but I don't even think that. It's just like you push this button and this button, then your point of sale, and you have your transaction. Now you put it in a belt in this shelf, and
Yeah.
someone will be by to pick it up, and you just give it to them.
Yeah.
It's like and they're like everyone's freaking out because like there's so many screw ups in it. I'm like, this is
Yeah,
This
or
is-
and then you have the management system that controls that, and it's like, whoa, what is that? It's management of things, and it's like, it's a person who overlooks this at the end of the day and says, yes, this worked, and then finds all the places where it didn't work,
Well,
and has to track down everybody who did that and tell them what the hell are you doing? Why didn't that work? Like,
I mean,
it's not complicated, because if it was too complicated for one person to do, one person wouldn't have that job.
yeah,
There are no jobs. There's things people can do that you can't do, that I can't do. But there's no jobs out there that the average person can't perform if they have time and effort and training.
Yeah.
There's no position in any company anywhere aside from highly technical positions that
Yeah,
require.
like doctor, lawyer.
I
Stuff
wouldn't
that you
count
need.
doctor in that.
No, yeah, no. You need a certain amount of
Yeah,
knowledge in a
yeah.
specific area that you can't just pick up on the job kind of thing.
Yeah, but I'm more talking to all the people who
Actually, you
work
could.
in
They
just
used to do that
that,
before. Sorry.
that's
Anyway.
yeah, I know, but I'm more talking to people who just work in the average business who, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, think like management is out of their reach or impossible. You know what I mean? Like just somebody working in just your average whatever in an office or in a public service industry or whatever. It's just those positions are not out of your reach. They're not impossible. They're not even fucking different. And once you're doing them, it's just another system you learn. Like you have to learn exactly that you punch this button and this thing goes here, and that person has to learn every time somebody fucks up. Here's my X, Y, and Z that I have to
Yeah.
do to try and keep them on track. Um, but yeah, what was I saying? My hope for human capital is it gets to the point. To me, that's what utopian world looks like. It's just a world. I mean, it's a lot of other things too, but it's really a world where everyone loves and understands capital and human capital
Yeah.
and understands that everywhere they go, they are valuable. Because when people have dignity, just honestly, bullies just disappear. And I don't know if they actually reform. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. But when people have the dignity and the ability to walk away, so much predatory behavior just kind of just doesn't happen in the adult world anyway. You
Yeah.
know, like I watch predatory behavior just dissipate in like people who are being, aggressive or rude or bullying towards me in every stage of my life. I just watch it dissipate as soon as I have the ability to walk away. As soon
Yeah.
as I'm like, oh right, I can leave, I can do whatever I want. I don't even have to leave. That realization dissipates that behavior.
Yeah. You can't do much against that.
And
Once
it's
the guy can walk away, you can't pick on him.
no, and it's even more valuable in the adult world because in the
Yeah.
adult world, as somebody who is valuable to the businesses I'm employed by or the people I'm working with, they don't want me to walk away. They're fucked if I walk away. They're
Yeah.
now without that position that I was, and they have to find someone now to do it.
You
It's
know,
really bad.
that's the thing that bothers me the most about I'm generalizing here, but
Yeah,
union employees and like
right.
that kind of mentality where
Sort
like
of
we deserve
protectionist
this.
industry. Yeah,
Yeah, where they're like, the big boss guy will take advantage of you and send you down in the mine to die and like won't have any security.
but that's the idea. Is unions aren't like that. Oh, I see what you're saying.
No, no, no. They're
Never
to
mind.
protect against this, and
Right,
it's
right,
just like,
right,
no, dude. Like, there's no one forcing you to go in that
right,
mine. Like, if
right, right,
someone
right.
if someone ever told me to get in a mine that I knew I'd die in, I'd tell them to go f themselves, and I wouldn't go down. Well, like there's like if you just have that financial dignity, like the whole people are being exploited like disappears. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
McDonald's, like there's people who work there and like, oh, now I need to protect them through my voting and stuff like that in order for them not to be taken advantage of. It's like
right.
you can learn something there. There's a benefit to working at McDonald's.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, yeah.
like there's lots of stuff, like you can learn systems management, whatever. Like they have great stuff there. But
Yeah,
if you don't want to live there for $15 an hour or $10 an hour, whatever you get paid there, you can move. And you
yeah.
can use the capital you gain from there, or like just have the dignity to start sweeping floors somewhere,
Yeah, yeah.
rather than just being part of the paradigm. It's up to you. And
Yeah,
like
sorry,
people
just
always want
hilarious side note. Only in Alberta would you think McDonald's employees make $15 an hour.
to. That's what I kind of caught myself. I'm like,
I was like, dude, the rest of the world, it's like, I don't know, like $6. Or like in the
yeah.
US, is probably anyway. Sorry, I totally threw you off your tangent. But yeah, you can step outside of that and transfer those skills. And to me, that's a beautiful utopia. That is the beautiful utopia. You cannot have, wage slavery or whatever debt classes of people. You can't have those in a world where everyone recognizes and loves the capital around them. When people recognize that making money in a free interaction, like an interaction with no force, no threats, no nothing, making money is about making other people happy.
Yeah.
It's about making other people's lives easier. And when everyone always talks about like, oh, but I really wish, in my job, my life, I wish I could have done something that helps people. And people say that all the time. I say it. Everybody says it because it feels good. Of course, it feels good. And I think it's a fantastic instinct. I think that's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but if people are paying you really well, it means you are making them happy. And I know it sounds stupid. I'm not equating money with happiness. What I'm equating is that you are making their life better. If you
Yeah.
were making it better, they wouldn't fucking pay you for it.
Yeah.
And
They're
people get locked in the
valuing it.
huge, yeah, they get locked in the huge corporate structure of, oh, that's not really value, that's not really helpful. But I think what they're missing is like that utopian idea of, I say utopian, it's not utopian at all, it's totally plausible, but where every single time there's a threat, and it's like, oh no, you can't work there, oh no, there's something that's going to shake up your world, and then you have to bow down and sort of, work through even shittier conditions, and accept more abuse, and have a boss who's even shittier to you. At all those moments, if you understood the range of value that's around you, just the 2 or 3 people let's say some guy works in an office, he's only ever made one friend in 10 years at work. I guarantee you that one friend can help you find some amazing opportunities in your life. No matter how useless they are, even just talking to them, they might be something in their life which you can recognize and go, holy shit, that's a huge niche. That's an unmet need, and I know how to do that.
Yeah.
Right? I only know how to input spreadsheets. That's my only thing I know how to do. I've input spreadsheets every day for 10 years, which I personally think is a waste. You should expand a bit, but whatever. And you just know one guy at work. That one guy is going to know this one thing, and you're like, I could make spreadsheets out of that. Oh, that would make it so much easier for everyone else, because then they would just have spreadsheets instead of having to figure it out themselves each time. And like that's everything is capital. And to me, I think that's what pure happiness in the business world looks like. You cannot exploit people. You cannot destroy people like that. You can't hurt people like that. Yeah. Everything is about everybody providing value for everyone else.
So basically the key is, if I understand this correctly, is to provide value and understand what that is, how to do it, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's your way to financial dignity, or like dignity in the way that you can walk away from things. And
yes.
That's the number one thing is as long as you're providing value, which is, like that's the big building block that people don't understand. Value comes in many forms, whatever. It's once you have and can provide consistent value, that's when you'll be rewarded. And that's when you won't have to worry about anything. But I strongly recommend to anyone out there to take a step out of the norm and try just existing without, a conventional job. You'll understand exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And to me, the two big things that I think we miss, or that we're missing in our education as well, is the creativity. Right? We don't practice or learn creativity. We always learn deductive stuff, and this is all about creativity. It really is. And it doesn't mean you have to be an artist, but it just means you have to be to be creative. You have to be very receptive. You can't be trying to force things to work a certain way. You just have to open yourself up and just look at the world around you with open eyes and go, how does this work? Why do people want that? Why do people desire that? And then go, holy shit, I can fulfill that desire. I can make other people happy by doing this.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the big takeaway is that's human capital, and that's to me my huge advertisement for free market. For free market living is it's about making people happy. It's about going, what are people missing in their lives? How could I make that easier or better for them? And it's a really simple calculation. Then all you have to do is be honest. Let the actual literal world, not the abstract world, not academia fucking bullshit. Let the literal world tell you what the answer is.
Yeah.
Try doing things and then find out and go, oh my god, that doesn't work. And just move on. And be creative and look at something else that could potentially work, and then just push and push and push in every direction. It's like you're playing Jenga. You just tap, 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 tap. Oh, that one's loose. I got one. And you just keep doing that. You just keep building, building, building. You just keep tapping until you find the loose bits. And somebody's not doing a very good job of that. I can snake in and do that better.
Perfect.
And to me, that's the glory of it. Yeah.
Well, no one's gonna top that, so I think we should call it.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, thanks very much for the chat.
Yeah, that's human capital, according to Jason and Gavin.
Sweet.